Welcome back to another magazine flick through, and this time we're looking at Mean Machines Sega again, and it is November 1993, issue 13. So the big thing this month is the review of Street Fighter 2. So we've seen many previews up until this point, but the big question is, how does it play and how does it compare against the Super Nintendo version, which up until that point was an exclusive for the platform. So it really does add to the console war, and it's a nice bit of history. And the other contender for the beat 'em up crown is Mortal Kombat. Some people prefer Street Fighter, some people prefer Mortal Kombat. Each to their own. There's a big feature on Aladdin. That was a really nice looking game. And on the Mega Drive we've got Gauntlet 4, which is really a remake of the first game. So we've got Sonic Spinball, Castlevania, which is the first time Castlevania has been on a Sega platform. WWF, Royal Rumble, Spider-Man and X-Men and the Mega CD. We've got Sonic CD, which I believe would be the review rather than the preview. And then we've got reviews of Thunderhawk and Kyo Flying Squadron. I always forget that Kyo Flying Squadron came out this early. I always thought it was much later. I must be wrong. And the Game Gear, we've got Echo the Dolphin and Micro Machines. So you'll notice here there's no Master System, at least for this month. So what have we got? This is EA Sports. So this is their NHL 94. I like this game, but not quite as much as NHLPA 93. It's just preference, but this is generally regarded as the best one in the series. Some people prefer this one, some people prefer 93. I stick in the 93 camp. So what else have we got here? Oh, Puyo Puyo, which wouldn't be Puyo Puyo in the West. That would be Mean Machines. So we've got Lost Vikings. I remember that taking ages to come out. Yeah, pretty much as it says on the cover. Mean Machines Special Champion Edition. So yeah, a lot of excitement about Street Fighter 2. What's this? 32-bit X4 CD. The Saturn's prototype processor. 24-bit pixel. Well, that's the color depth. So is this the Saturn, or is it the 32X? There was a lot of rumours at this point. I don't know if the 32X had been announced. I think these are just concepts. Maybe Sega didn't know at that point whether the next big thing would be the Saturn or not. I know there were a whole bunch of prototypes, but I think in retrospect they shouldn't have released the 32X. I think that damaged their reputation. James Bond 2 Robocod on the Master System. It looks really nice with that. The backgrounds are quite simple, but all the the characters in the foreground graphics look really good. They look like the Mega Drive game. Don't know how smooth it is, but we'll have to see maybe one day. I don't have that yet. And already the big news is not only is Street Fighter 2 out of date, not only is the Champion Edition and Hyper Fighting out of date, but there is a new Street Fighter 2 game, which is Super Street Fighter 2, which did come out on the Mega Drive and the SNES. Yeah. So what's here? Formula 1 DSP. Using DSP, it should be... Now, DSP is a digital signal processor. Funnily enough, that sounds like the chip that's in Virtual Racing. That was a DSP. Yeah. So they're talking about the DSP Super Polygon chip for the Mega Drive. And it's Jeff Crammond's Formula 1 Grand Prix. I don't ever recall this coming out. And the only chip, a special hardware for the Mega Drive was Virtual Racing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Mega Drive is more like the SNES in that there were a lot of games that had DSPs as part of them. But as far as I know, none of them ever came out. I mean, they do mention virtual racing coming out, so I need to look into that, because I remember Bloodshot and Zero Tolerance supposedly having extra hardware, but in the end they never did. So I don't know what happened here. I really should look into that. Yep, Lotus. Yeah, this will be Lotus Lotus 2. Now the confusing thing is, Lotus 1 on the Amiga never came out, and when Lotus 2 came out they called it Lotus, and then when Lotus 3 came out they called it Lotus 2. But looking at the road on this, I think this is Lotus 3 from the Amiga. Yeah. Ah yes, Virtua Fighter. Interesting that this character on the right wasn't in the final game. He was replaced by Akira in the end. His name is, you can see there, Shira. He did appear in Fighters Megamix though, so it's nice to see, you know, some of the, I suppose, beta features becoming, you know, present in final games. Castlevania, yeah, that's been reviewed, isn't it, this month? So we'll see more of that. Yeah, some EA games, so Lotus, NHL Night 3, Powermonger. Yeah, all good games. I've got Crew Ball as well. It's a bit jerky. I'm not a massive fan of that game. And we've got F22 and Go Madden. Never played those two. Virtua Star Wars, which we know used the Sega Model 1 hardware, as did Virtua Fighter, and it came out on the 32X, and it's a really, really good game. Lemmings 2's coming out on Mega Drive. Master Sonic. Now, what's this? Sonic Chaos, isn't it? Yeah, that's quite a nice game. I always felt that the controls on Sonic 2 and Sonic Chaos didn't feel quite right. I liked the original game, but they always felt a bit kind of sticky on those. It's kind of odd to describe. So what have we got? Flashback coming out in the Mega CD. There isn't really much point, really. It's just the FMV sequences, really. There's not much of a difference, and you get a slightly better soundtrack, but I think if you've got the Mega Drive version, save your money. Thunderhawk, so this is being reviewed. This is a really good game. It's hard, really hard game. The Lost Vikings, yeah. This is a game that I remember reading about, and I remember it being delayed quite a bit. Either this one or the sequel was. And I always wanted to play it. It's just quite hard to get hold of. I don't think it's sold very well. FIFA, this is the original. Yeah, that's a classic. Well, it's a classic series, isn't it? Classic game. It's still going now. So Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition versus Mortal Kombat. Yeah, I think I would stick with Street Fighter. And I think it's slightly unfair because you're talking about the first version of Mortal Kombat versus the second version of Street Fighter 2, or rather, even it's the third version, isn't it? Because it's based on the hyper fighting. It's really Super Street Fighter 2, not Super, sorry, Street Fighter 2 Turbo that came out on the SNES. Just has a slightly different name. So you're really looking at Revision 3 versus Revision 1, so it's not really fair. I thought Mortal Kombat 2 was slightly better. But yeah, I mean, look at these scores. Yeah, the sound isn't great. They didn't like that very much on the Mega Drive. But graphics look really good. Yeah, the conversion, that looks like the arcade. Looking at Goro, I think that's the arcade version. Yeah. So they think the conversion's a lot better for Street Fighter 2. Playability, yeah, I mean, it's clear which game's going to win here, isn't it? It's Street... What? Oh, they trick you there by showing a picture of Mortal Kombat. It's Street Fighter 2, isn't it, that won? Yeah, they said Mortal Kombat's a superb conversion, but in their opinion the coin-op wasn't really up to much, unlike Street Fighter 2. Yeah, so Street Fighter 2 won. Some more Mean Yob. Nice to see 18 rated franchises in kids magazines. We wouldn't be as messed up and corrupt today as we would be, as we are rather. It's all good fun. So Midlands, yeah, this was one of the discounts and offers. Midlands HSBC now. Tips and tricks. Yeah, some codes there. Yeah, what's that on Flashback? Oh yeah, that was the bug on Flashback. You can walk through walls by turning left and right and exploiting some of the animation. Any other games I own here? Rocket Knight. What does that let you do? Oh, it's the hard level. Right, I'm not going to be doing that because that's quite a hard game. Sonic 2 on the... that's the Master System screenshot, but it is the Mega Drive version they're talking about. World of Illusion. Yeah, I don't really remember there being a lot of cheats for that game. It's not really hard. And Solve Fierce again. More EA games coming your way at the end of '93. So yeah, really good time to be a Mega Drive owner. Now, what will this get? Take a swig of coffee while you put the answers on the buzzers, or whatever they do on TV programmes. So let's see. I think this is going to be about 95%. I haven't looked at this magazine before looking at it now. 84. Now, why? Lastability, which they gave it a tick for. They gave it a green. Oh, it's green triangle. Yeah, a long-lasting challenge is assured. These all get 90%. Okay, playability is not quite there, but they thought the lastability was good, and that dragged the score down. Bizarre. I just found this game really hard. That was the problem with it. It got a little bit frustrating, but for the hardware, it's fantastic, and it's certainly quite different to the Amiga version. So certainly a recommendation. Snake Rattle and Roll, it's an isometric game. That's probably why I didn't even look at it back in the day. I'm not a fan of isometric games. I just can't really get on with them very well. But what did this game get? 78, so it's not bad, not bad. BT, the old logo. Gauntlet 4. Another cutout from the magazine. This is quite a good conversion, and it does let you have... Does this let you have 4-player? It does say there's only one, but I'm sure this game worked with the 4-player adapter. I might be wrong. I'm sure that was a big feature of it. So what did it get? 94. Yeah. I mean, it's a classic game. Gauntlet stands up even now. I mean, you could play the NES version. I remember playing that at Replay, and it's really good. Really good game. Royal Navy. Puyo Puyo, which came out in the UK as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Machine. Now, I have got this on the SNES, and I've got the sequel, Puyo Puyo 2, on the Mega Drive, which is a play on words. It means two, and it means master in Japanese. I think I preferred the second game. There's a bit more to it, but this is really a classic game. It's really good, and it's just a shame there haven't been more recent sequels. I haven't seen a lot coming out in the UK. There were quite a lot of sequels on the Game Boy Advance and the PlayStation, but it seems to have slowed down. But I think that's a really nice game. Maybe there's an iOS game, I don't know. So another one of those Konami adverts. Now, Kyo Flying Squadron. Quite an odd game to come out on the Mega CD, really. I'm surprised this didn't come out on the Mega Drive. I mean, other than the soundtrack, I don't recall it making that much use of the hardware. There's some FMV, which works well because it's cartoon, and there might be a bit of scaling in there, but I'm surprised this never came out on the Mega Drive. 90%. So they say that fabulous backgrounds, and there's a bit of flickering. But yeah, it's a good game. There is a demo disc that came out with Mega Power, which I have got, and that has a fault in it because the level, what they did, they didn't remove all the game, they just crippled it. So at the end of level 1 it goes back to the title screen, but they left the level select cheat in there so you can skip to level 2. So it gives you the full game, really. Fantastic Dizzy. This is a bit flawed. I remember being really disappointed with this when it came out because it didn't play like the Amiga games. It just fell off somehow. Because the game's big, it's quite a, you know, an epic size adventure, but there's a thing about collecting all these stars, and it gets quite frustrating on it. So what did they think? It's one of the least endearing Mega Drive titles in existence. I know some people don't like Dizzy, but Dizzy on the Amiga, well, there are a lot of them, aren't there? There are like 6 games. They were really good. You know, Treasure Island and Magic Land and Crystal Kingdom and Spellbound and all those games. They were really good. Yeah, I just don't think they like it very much. I don't know if this was made by the Oliver twins or not, or whether it was a third-party company that developed it. NHL, this is likely to get a good score. I think it depends on whether you like sports games or not. 88. Yeah, I'm surprised that's not higher. I think if this was reviewed now, I'm sure people would give it a lot higher score. But there's no obvious flaws in it. Zombies. I haven't played this one. I remember seeing it and just wondering what kind of game it was. Good score. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a top-down shooting game, kind of like Chaos Engine, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Addams Family. Yeah, I used to have this on the ST. And it's one of those weird cases, I remember, that you have one platform and you like a game and then you buy it again on a newer platform that you own, and you don't ever go back and play it. I remember enjoying this on the ST, and I bought it on the Mega Drive a few years later, and I hardly ever played it. It's a little bit like Mario in a way. I think if you were a Mega Drive owner and you wanted a game like Mario, this is probably one of the closest games you could get. It's just the way that it feels. So what didn't they like? Yeah, so they say that it's frustrating because the game's, in a way, it's quite open world. You can go anywhere you like in the mansion, and you can do the levels in any kind of order. It's made by Ocean, isn't it? So from Manchester. Yeah, it's just, there's not really much to offer in the game, and I think that's true. But when it came out in the ST and the Amiga, I think it was a bit more original. So here it is. This is Sonic CD. This is the review. And this game took a long time to get released in the UK. It took ages, I remember. So 83%. Wow, that's lower than I thought. So the problem is, yeah, they said it's too easy, and I think that's true, because there aren't very many badniks in the game. I found it is a really easy game. I think the biggest thing is going back in time and hitting the time displacement machine. You've got to do that for every level to get the good ending, and I think that's where the charm comes, rather than rolling into badniks. Yeah, so Rich said that there's a lack of innovation apart from the special zone, which is mode 7. I think that's true in a way, because it's more of the same of Sonic 1, and in a way it's just a shame that Sonic 2 was already out at this point and had been out a year, so we're really talking 2 years after the original Sonic, and it wasn't much of a change really. As far as the way the game played, it was very, very similar, but they just improved the graphics. It's a much larger game. I like it. This is my favourite one of all of them. I like the familiarity, but I don't think everyone did at the time. Kiss FM. Don't know if that still goes now. Certainly on a different frequency because it's all digital now. So Cosmic Spacehead. I've got this on a combo cartridge with Dizzy. It's the same one I had back in the day. Couldn't get into it. It's a point and click adventure, but it's just bizarre. 58%. They said it's too easy to complete. Right, well, I found it too hard. I just found it didn't make sense. Maybe I should go back. I mean, it was one of those games that I couldn't even get off the first couple of screens. It just didn't make sense to me. I should go back. PGA on the Master System. Now, I wonder if this still uses the 3D courses that the Mega Drive has. It looks like it does. I can't see it playing any other way. Yeah, that looks alright actually. It looks like a really good conversion. Spider-Man versus X-Men. Or is it Spider-Man and X-Men? I don't know. It's probably versus. Graphically, it doesn't look great, does it? Arcade's Revenge. Strange title. This looks like a Master System game from the screenshots. I reckon this will get about 70%. 78%. Graphics not great, presentation not great, but it plays well, which is fair enough. Huh. Blanca with the... Is that the championship colours or is that the hyper fighting colours? I forget. Micro Machines, so the first one. Yeah, got a good review. It looks a little dark, it might just be the screenshots, but the colour depth isn't great on the Master System and the Game Gear anyway. So it might just be in the way the game was designed. Echo. Again, this looks very, very dark. I don't know if this is just the magazine aging or just bad screenshots. So this got 88%. I've never played this on the Master System or the Game Gear, but I do wonder whether the screen would be a little cramped on the Master... Oh, not Master System, the Game Gear rather. Don't know. Some more adverts. Aladdin, work in progress. This is another Dave Perry game by Shiny. I think, was he Shiny at that point? I forget if he had his own company at that point. But this certainly had a lot of hype at the time. And graphically, it looks really good for the Mega Drive. The gameplay, I got a bit frustrated with the game. I never finished it. But certainly it looks really, really nice. Jim Power. This looks like another one of those EA published, I suppose, Euro platformers like Legend of Galahad. So often by Amiga developers or companies like Psygnosis, and certainly Chaos Engine. Bitmap Brothers, a British game. Really, really good game. I still need to get that on the Mega Drive. I really should look into Jim Power. Yeah, it doesn't really say much about it. So it says Locriel, I've never heard of them, but I assume this is a British game just by the look of it. What have we got? Turtles Tournament Fighters. That's quite collectible now. It's a really good game, good one-on-one beat 'em up. And Sonic Spinball, which isn't a good game. It just felt wrong. It's like they took the pinball sections from Sonic 2, and which were kind of there in Sonic 1 a little bit, and it just didn't feel right. I think it's not even made by the same development team that either developed the first or the Sonic games, because I know there was a bit of a split, and I suppose Sonic CD as well. This was a different team, and I just didn't think it felt right. That the pinball sections, you didn't have a lot of control, and where you were running around as Sonic, it just didn't feel right. Once you start playing the game, you run for about 5 seconds, and it just didn't feel right. And I remember thinking, oh dear, I bought a stinker, and never got on with it. But that's just my opinion. So next month, June CD, James Pond 3, Operation Starfish. Yeah. So we're into 94, I believe. I think the next issue I've got is around February time. But I do have a Megatech from the same month as this, so I'll go through that as well and just see how it compares. No doubt they're reviewing similar games, but because they're always staggered by a few weeks, there are a few differences. And actually, I'll go back. Just go back. How much is it at this point? So we're on the Mega Drive 2, that's the Japanese one, and with Sonic 2 it's £112, so the price is coming down. So we've got Fantastic Dizzy again. Yeah, not a bad issue, not a bad issue. I think there's a lot of promise, but I think there are a lot of good games coming out in '94 that we didn't know about. I think it was, maybe there was a big announcement at Christmas or January. I don't know, can't remember. But no doubt we'll find out in some more issues. So thanks very much for watching again.